So I'm terrified because according to TikTok, I have been cleaning my Stanley all wrong. The girl I saw on TikTok took this part off of her Stanley and it had a shitload of mold on it. I have never taken this off. I didn't think you could take it off. I thought it just slid over like that. So I'm gonna do that today and hopefully not reveal something disgusting. So I guess all you do is pinch and push. I've been drinking out of that. Oh my god.
What's your photo
I'm gonna boil ice water without melting any of the ice. Now watch what happens when we put the beaker in a vacuum and suck most of the air out of this vacuum chamber. Now as atmospheric pressure decreases, like when you go up in altitude, the boiling point of water decreases. But the freezing point barely changes at all. And as we approach a perfect vacuum, around 1/2% of an atmosphere, the boiling point of water becomes so low that it's actually the same as the melting point or freezing point of water. Meaning what you're looking at right now is both a frozen solid, a liquid, and a boiling gas all at once. And more importantly, all at the same temperature. This is what in physics and chemistry we call the triple point.
That's interesting, man.
The blue glow that a nuclear reactor makes when it powers on is called Cherenkov radiation, and it happens because the nuclear reactor is emitting particles that are traveling faster than the speed of light. Not faster than the speed of light in a vacuum, but in water, light travels at 75% the speed of light does in space. So these beta particles emitted from the nuclear reactor create an effect analogous to a sonic boom, except with light, because as they travel through the water, they ionize the water molecules and excite them, and then upon returning to their ground state, those water molecules emit light. The light can't travel as fast as that beta particle is traveling through the water, and so you get this conical front of light that emerges behind it, similar to a sonic boom traveling behind a jet. The light is blue because the particles emitted from the reactor are very high energy and thus excite the water molecules to a very high energy state, and then they give off blue photons because blue is a greater energy wavelength than any other in the visible spectrum.
This is very interesting.
Had a commenter say, Ms. Lizard, why can my husband not find the ketchup when it is right in front of his face in the fridge? And my answer is because he likely doesn't see it. Stay with me. I've talked a little bit about this before, but light hits our eyes, and that light and those sensors get interpreted by the brain. Our brain, not our eyes, is what decides what we really see. And that sometimes means what is actually there is not matching what we are observing in the environment. If someone is not expecting to see ketchup in this spot in the fridge, they may not actually see it. The light is bouncing off of this and going into their eyes, but it's being interpreted by the brain as something else. Like if you were walking in the woods in Bulgaria and you saw this tree and it makes you jump and you go, oh my gosh, I thought I saw a person there for a minute. You actually did see a person. This shape hit your eye and it went into your brain, and your brain thought person and filled in details of a person. Then when you looked at it a little bit longer, your brain got more detail, and then your brain said, oh, it's a tree, and filled it in with the tree details. Remember, our eyes don't actually see anything. Our eyes pass messages to the brain, and our brain is the one that decides what we see. So if the brain is not expecting to see this, it may decide that you don't see it.
No, that express was referred to with my mom searching for stuff.
This amazing mama cat adopted 4 orphaned squirrels. They're not quite the bundles of joy Pusha the cat expected to have, but she loves these babies anyway. She had just given birth to 4 of her own kittens at the park where she lives when her human friends brought her 4 tiny baby squirrels. The tiny babies had lost their own mother, but needed someone to care for them. At first, the baby squirrels were afraid of their new mom, but with a little help from the humans, they became one big family. Pusha nurses the babies alongside her own kittens, and her humans supplement with bottles of milk. The little squirrels cuddle up to their new mom to fall asleep, and she gives them a bath, just like she would do for a kitten. Of course, there's also time to play, and the little babies love to crawl on their mom. It's a sweet and surprising sight, considering cats would usually be predators to squirrels in the wild. But Pusha seems to love all her kids equally, and the unconventional family is a reminder that a mother's love knows no bounds, even across species.
One time I posted a video that got over 6 million views and thousands of comments from people that said that it changed their life. So if you were not one of those 6 million people, and if you want your life to be changed, potentially, here's the video. Imagine if today somebody gave you a check for $1 million and you went to deposit it at your bank and the bank said, okay, great, like this will clear in the next 10 business days because it's a big check and the bank has to work it out. So now for those following business days, you'd be walking around with this high energy outputting into the universe of you feeling wealthy and abundant and happy and excited and satisfied. And as a result, living from that level of energy would produce all these other experiences that are on that level of excitement and abundance and prosperity, right? Even though you don't have a dollar to spend yet, you'd just be walking around all that time knowing, right? It's a knowing. It's not even like hoping anymore because you know that the funds are going to be released on that certain day or whatever. Or imagine if somebody came to you today and said, hey, here's your dream job. They just offer you your dream job. It's the perfect career that you've always wanted. And they say, you start in 2 weeks. And now as you're going around throughout these 2 weeks, you would just be knowing that you're that person you want to be. You're living that life you want to live. You have that amazing career you've always wanted, even though you haven't worked one day yet. You're just walking around and operating from this level of energy, of excitement and joy, satisfaction. And as a result, because that's where your energy is, you become a vibrational match to all these other experiences that are so joyful and so abundant and so satisfying, right? So comfortable and all this. But nothing's really changed. It's just that you gave permission to a condition to allow yourself to feel an emotion, right? And I truly believe that if we can generate that emotion first, if we can conjure the emotion that we want to conjure, then many manifestations can come to match that vibration, right? And we see it all the time, like in the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, for instance, where these people with terminal illnesses, they're able to heal themselves because they're able to occupy an identity that says I'm already healed, and to be able to sustain it long enough until physical reality captures or catches up to the energy, right? Because in the same way, if you play a sound and it creates a vibration or it creates a waveform, in the same way that when you play that sound, it's the exact sound, the exact same waveform will always be created, right? So I believe if you can create the waveform, then you'll hear the sound, right? You can go back and forth with it. It can be one thing and then the other, or that thing and then the other, right? You can flip it. And I think ultimately this comes down to changing our sort of mentality of I'll believe it when I see it to I'll see it when I believe it. When I know that I am that person I want to be, then I'll start acting like that person and doing the things to bring those things to me. Like when I truly know it first, instead of being like, yeah, once it happens, I'll feel the feeling, right? Really all you want is the feeling, right? So if we can make our work generating the emotion as much as possible, so many things can swiftly come into our life to manifest that are a part of that vibration, right? That are on level with that experience that we're seeking, with that emotion that we're seeking. And at the same time, I understand all of this intellectually, but even still, if I were to operate from feeling that feeling of being just handed the $1 million or whatever, I can do it for a while, but still, the doubt starts to creep in and it steals the good seed that you've planted, right? And that's what doubt does. And it's funny because some of our doubts or our limited beliefs are so subtle or so nuanced. For instance, okay, let's go to the money thing. I truly believe that I'm going to be financially wealthy one day. I've always believed that. I've always felt that. That just feels natural to me. But one of my limiting thoughts around that is that it's yeah, but probably not today. Probably not tomorrow. Probably not this week, right? And it's funny because whenever I realize that, it's oh, those are the thoughts that I need to kind of soften a little bit and say, hey, you know what? It could happen sooner than I realize. I could have a great idea this week that I just follow my bliss on, and all of a sudden this amazing, empire gets built, or who knows? Things happen all the time, right?
And so I think it's about catching those beliefs, softening them, realizing that those are the things that come in and steal the seed that we've planted. So we start making our work to just be plant the seed, continually water it, recognize if something's come in and slept in and pulled it out, work on that thought, let it soften, then go plant the seed again and just focus on watering it. Before you know it, all kinds of manifestations can come to match the vibration that you're holding, and you don't need to insist on it being a specific manifestation, because remember, the emotion is all you want to feel. So let's say, you know, if you want one specific thing, let's say you want to be with a specific person, right? And so you're operating from feeling like you're already there and living that type of like relationship and whatever. And then if another person comes in, don't just be so quick to like deflect them, be like, no, I'm looking over here, because again, what you want is the emotion that you think the experience is going to provide. But what if that emotion is actually going to be felt over here instead of over there? So it's also about being detached from the specifics of the outcome, but generating the general emotion that you're seeking, and then allowing manifestations to come into place that are a vibrational match to that emotion.
This goes up anyways.
So, just opening up our front door here. We've been a little bit snowed in, not too bad. Some fun snow, and our neighbours have moved a little bit closer. We've invited them in, but they've rejected our invitation today.
At this point, I'm gonna use my knife like a normal person to open up the rest, wedging them all open, such that we can easily take off these seeds and start fermenting. So give me a few minutes while I crack all these open. Once we've gotten all of our alien-like pods open and separated, I'm gonna go ahead and put these all on a big tray, and then it's time for perhaps what is my favorite part, squeezing them all out. Just take a listen. We just want to take all of the seeds out and put them on our tray here so that they can then sit and ferment for a week. And this is what ultimately will give them those flavors that we all expect in chocolate. Now, it's true that if we just roasted these seeds right away in our kitchen, the entire room will actually smell like a chocolate bar. But fermenting actually develops things. It brings out the flavor that you're otherwise not gonna have. As we separate off all these seeds, we're gonna leave behind the stem in each of our pods, which we really have no need for right now. However, all of this stuff behind me, I'm gonna toss in my garden as compost to try to get some flavor in there as well. Once we finally squeeze these all into our tray, it's now time to spread all of these out and set these aside for a week to ferment. I'm gonna be keeping a really close eye on these for the next week to make sure that there's no mold that develops, and I'll try to update you to make sure you're looped in as well. After about a week of fermentation, the seeds have changed quite a lot. Unfortunately, during the process, some of them started getting a little bit of mold at one point, so I rinsed them off with a little bit of alcohol, put them back, and they seem to be fine. Now, the first thing you're hit with these is this overwhelming smell of alcohol, that really fermented aroma that we smelled on the farm in Ecuador. The other part of this is the fact that they are really gooey. You can see that when I open up these gloves, there's just all this goo there. And again, that's the same thing we saw at the farm in Ecuador. At this point in time, it's time for the roasting process. So after mixing these around just a little bit, I'm simply gonna lay them out flat and toss them in the oven. And at this point, I'll roast these bad boys at 300 degrees Fahrenheit until they're a deep brown color and have been fully roasted. Not on my flip-flops. What are you doing? And finally, at this point, they are all fully roasted. Now, these seeds right here, at this point smell like a perfect mixture between vinegar and chocolate. And I know that sounds really strange, but like we talked about before, that's how you get that flavor. And now that these seeds have all been roasted, it's time for what's gonna be the most hands-on part of what we're doing today, which is breaking all these seeds open and getting those nibs out. Now we're gonna put all these cacao seeds into a bag, because crushing them up in a bag is gonna be a lot better than trying to individually crush them all on our cutting board. What's gonna happen here is this. When we crush all these open together, we're gonna be separating the shell and then what's inside. All these beautiful cacao nibs, which will be used to make chocolate. Now it's time you get a rolling pin and pretend that what's in this bag is someone you really don't like. I'm pretty good with a rolling pin. What are you doing? At this point, we smash. And now, after we've been smashing for quite some time, we'll pour the contents back onto our tray. And as you can see here, we've got a nice mixture of shells and nibs. At this point in time, we'll take a quick pause, and I'm gonna separate out all the nibs from the shells. All right, cut the cams for a sec. Yeah. All right, you're gonna separate all these out real quick. I'm gonna take a bubble bath really fast, all right?
Yeah, all right.
Are you still filming? No. Dude, you're fired. You done?
Yeah.
All right. Don't film me, don't film me. At this point, after about an hour of separating all of these cacao nibs out, we have our roasted nibs. In general, I'm sure some of you have seen these before. They often put them on top of things like smoothie bowls, acai bowls, that kind of thing. But we all actually know them from being liquefied into chocolate liqueur, which is ultimately transformed into all the chocolate bars you know and love. Now, we're ready to start grinding, and I'm super excited because we have a real stone grinding machine here with us right now. Just before we roast, I want to show you a perfectly peeled cacao bean here. It's beautiful and looks just like a dinosaur egg. So this right here is the whole bean without the shell. And then when I crush it, we have all those nibs. I am very excited about this machine right here because this is a stone grinder. These beautifully polished stones on the inside are gonna go for hours and hours to grind those cacao nibs into the perfect smooth chocolate that we're looking for. Before I put anything in there, watch these spin for a minute. Now it's finally time. I'm gonna start dumping these cacao nibs slowly into here and let them start to grind up. But this machine is really loud, so I may not be able to talk while I'm doing it.
Ah, that's interesting.
To start, we're gonna let these grind for a little while to let the first small batch start to get broken up. Then we'll add more. We've been letting it go for about 5 minutes now, and this is what it looks like. Again, I've turned off the machine because it's really loud. But if you look in for a second, it's almost like we have a slightly rough peanut butter consistency right now. But for now, I'll fire it back up and continue adding nibs. I've turned this off again because of how loud it is, but at this point we're gonna add those last cacao nibs into our machine here. As we can now get from the bottom, that chocolate has become even softer and smoother, and we're slowly getting to the point that we could add our final flavorings and then turn it into a bar. For now, I'll turn it back on. At this point, once it's almost a liquid, we're gonna start adding our sugar. The sugar's gonna have to go in bit by bit so that it slowly sort of melts and combines itself into that chocolate. Now finally, we have this beautiful liqueur here. It's a really soft, smooth, beautiful consistency at this point, as you can see here from my rubber spatula. Let's take out a nice big scoop of this chocolate and just look at that chocolate. We have just made this from cacao pods. Once our chocolate's finally done mixing, I'm gonna tilt the machine all the way over so that it can slowly drizzle into our chocolate mold. I'm slightly skipping a step here by not going through the full process of tempering the chocolate, but you'll see that we'll get a smooth chocolate bar with a nice crack regardless. Once we let all that chocolate flow into this beautiful mold here, we'll let it spread through our chocolate mold. This looks incredibly good. At this point, we'll run a bench scraper across all the chocolate, making sure that our whole bar will be perfectly level. And once we've cleaned off all these edges, we'll set it aside to cool. Now for our milk chocolate bar, we're gonna go ahead and sprinkle in a little bit of milk powder across our cacao and let this blend again. And now we'll pour in our milk chocolate and repeat the same process that we did with the dark chocolate bar. Once we've given that chocolate some time to rest, here it is. This is my favorite part of the entire process. The classic moment of truth as you pull back the mold. As you can see, we have a beautifully smooth bar of chocolate here. It's got a fantastic shine on it, and the thought of having this come all the way from cacao pods from Ecuador is really, really cool. We certainly did take one or two shortcuts throughout this process, primarily in the name of just moving this along, but I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. And now it's time to make sure that we get that nice classic snap. Here we go.
That's a mouth-watering video from our wonderful soul. They had some unusual sounds coming from this tree, so they went back home and came back with a chainsaw to cut down the tree and find out what was inside. Let's see what they found out. Some guys that were walking found out a tree that had some funny What? Why is this tree hole in the inside? But after a few moments, the most hilarious thing emerged from the tree. What? Oh my god! Where did this friend of ours come from? How did he enter the tree? These animals are very funny, man. Where did that dog come from? How did it enter the tree? Oh my god. Much love to you for watching up to this far. Oh, let's see what these guys are digging up. Oh man. As these guys continue to dig up, please hit the like button. You are loved and respected. And leave a comment. What did these guys find out after digging? What? What is this now? Whoa. What sign is this? Oh, you see, I'm not familiar with the most symbols and signs. And I see creepy signs every day and they dazzle my mind and I wish there was someone who understands and could help us to understand and explain to us better in the comment section. What are these science means? Like, no, what? Is that silver? Oh,
Stop what you're doing. Something incredible has happened in the world of archaeology, and you're going to want to hear this. And it's also from the world of AI. Because AI has read text from an ancient Herculaneum scroll from 2,000 years ago for the very first time. This is incredibly exciting and important because we may find long lost texts. Can you tell I'm excited? I am. And even more significant, these texts will be from the horse's mouth. Basically, they won't have been passed down to us through scribes through hundreds of years, and so we'll be hearing them as they were written at the time. So how has this been done? The competition was started by the Vesuvius Challenge a while ago, and they set up a fund to basically reward any computer scientist that could work out how to read inside these scrolls without destroying them. Because up until now, we would have to unravel the scrolls to read inside them, but obviously this isn't ideal. In answer to this, computer scientists have been trying to virtually unwrap or unravel the scrolls using AI, and a 21-year-old computer scientist has just worked this out and managed to read the first few words on the scrolls using this technology. His name is Luke Farritor, and he essentially developed a machine learning device to work out Greek letters on the papyrus. And he used this technology to read several lines, and one of these was the Greek word for purple. But how did he do this? Well, he detected subtle texture-like marks in the scrolls and used this to establish with the AI where the words were and what they were. And so he saw these words develop before his very eyes with this technology. So what might these scrolls contain, and why are people like me so excited about it? Well, as I said, many classical texts that we do have today have been passed down to us through scribes who translated the texts and not necessarily translated them correctly. It may be a case of gossip over time, or rumours, or broken telephone, as some people might call it, where they may be changing over time. So what we have now might not actually be what was originally written. So the scrolls from the Villa de Papyri in Herculaneum are a very unique opportunity to see these texts as they were originally intended to be read. So what might they contain? So far, researchers have been able to read some of the scrolls by opening them up, and of course this has led to the destruction of some of them, so they stopped. Most of these were Greek texts, and some were Latin, but it's likely that the texts in the scrolls are mainly by the Greek philosopher Epicurus, and there's also likely to be some text by Philodemus. There's some hints to that, and he wrote about sort of vices, music, death, and it has been suggested that this may have been his working collection at Herculaneum. So at this stage we only have the first letters that have been deciphered, and the challenge wants 4 or more passages for the grand prize of $700,000. And so far, we still have 600 scrolls to be deciphered. So there's a long way to go yet. And actually, there may be more in the villa, in the bottom level of the villa, to be uncovered in future excavations, potentially. So who knows? It is very exciting, as I'm sure you can see in my face. So I'm hoping for some secret texts that have been lost over the centuries and historians have yearned after for many, many years. So I'll keep you updated on how this is going from the scientific side of things, and I'll let you know about more ancient discoveries as time goes on. So do follow me if you want to hear more ancient history discoveries.
That's incredible, man.
And so my journey basically became about accepting those downloads, embracing them into my life, applying them into my life, and seeing how they change things. So one of those downloads I actually received was that I was going to die at the age of 45. And at first, I didn't really pay much attention. I was like, we're going to put that download on the side. And it kept coming up over and over. And so I started listening to it. And I started going, okay, well, maybe that's not so bad. The average person doesn't know when they're going to die. So I figured this was a good thing in a way. And it aligned with 9, which was a big part of my downloads. I was receiving a lot of information that was towards Nikola Tesla's 3, 6, and 9. And so I asked the question, I was like, how I'm going to die? And it said that I was going to die of a brain issue, but that I wasn't going to have any pain. So at this point in time, suddenly I had no more fear, not only of death, but I had no more fear of living. I knew that I was okay no matter what I did. So I started going out in the world. I joined a local church. I started preaching. I started working with them. I became a leader. I started working on the audio and visuals for them. I started running bingo every Friday night in front of 200 people. So imagine someone who couldn't leave their house and now is running, bingo just out of the kindness because I didn't get paid for it. I just wanted to help all of these people. I wanted to help all the time. I started making lunches for the homeless every single Saturday. So my whole life was just about helping people as much as I could. And so one day I was working at church, just a normal day, everything is going, and I started having this pain in the back of my ear, and it got worse and worse and worse to the point where I thought I was going to pass out. So I was rushed to the hospital, and the doctor came in and she said, okay, I know that you're young, but I'm going to run a MRI on your head, basically. And when it came back, it found out that I actually had a brain aneurysm, and I had suffered a mini stroke that day. And that's when everything started coming together, because now I understood that what I experienced before was also a mini stroke, that this brain aneurysm was there. So not only did it save my life to go to the hospital, because I would have ended up bleeding out, it also made it so that we are aware of the brain aneurysm, which made it so that I didn't do things that could have caused a very easy bleed. So in essence, my downloads saved my life. And so after that moment, it was game over. I trusted every download that I received. I started really applying it to my life. That's where I created the 9 Vibes calendar, the 9 Vibes Facebook, the 9 Vibes website. I just started sharing as much as I can. I started teaching classes. I've been working one-on-one with people for over 3 years that I've been seeing, periodically throughout the year. I trust in this universal concept of the fact that there is no separation between us, and that this life was meant to be something you enjoyed here and now. You don't have to have an NDE. You don't have to die for you to find these treasures here and now. And that's basically the message I try to give people. Everything around you is energy, right? We're at the place that science agrees that energy cannot be created nor destroyed, which means that everything, whether it's your computer, whether it's your car, whether it's nature, it's all just energy. And we're energy as well.
Wow. That's interesting, man. Neighbors, you love yourself.
The universe always rewards you when you're willing to let go of something first. And that's the key that a lot of people miss. You have to be willing to give something up that you've been holding on to in order to have it replaced with something better. If you're holding on to a person, to a job, to your money from a place of fear and control, then even if you manifest something, it won't be at a higher caliber. You have to make sacrifices in life, and the universe is very demanding. Okay, what I mean by sacrifice is you have to be willing to sacrifice what the ego is clinging on to free up space. Okay, right now you're blocking out your blessing because you're hoarding everything. When you let things go, you free up space and your energy is able to flow more properly. You're not blocking out your blessings anymore. People ask me all the time, well, Phil, what is my purpose? What should I do next? If that answer hasn't been revealed to you, it's because you're not supposed to know. You need to focus on other areas of your life to identify what you're holding on to that's holding you back. Be willing to let it go, okay? Once you let it go, you're gonna be forced to cultivate more trust with the universe because you don't know if you're gonna get money, you don't know if you're gonna meet someone. That requires trust. That's why things don't always arrive right away. The trust is the name of the game. The more trust you have with the universe, the bigger the reward is. So stop holding yourself back by holding on to things. You're actually living in an unreasonable way. Thinking that the universe is going to give you something when you're not willing to give something up, that's control. So yeah, it's always going to support you, but you won't be leveling up. You have to keep leveling up, okay? You're not supposed to know what's next. You're supposed to figure out where you're still afraid, where you're still trying to control things. Let that control go, okay? It doesn't have to be a person. It doesn't have to be a thing. It can just be that you're controlling. You have to let that control go, get more vulnerable, get more open, start surrendering more. This is going to force you to build more trust. People who have amazing relationship with the universe have amazing relationships with people. Okay, that's just how, and vice versa. That's how it works. It's all about relationships. So build more trust with the universe by throwing yourself into the unknown. Okay, and when nothing's coming, good. Practice having more trust, strengthen that relationship, and eventually it will all happen for you, I promise.
No, that trust is what some call faith. Just have faith.
So, update to my last video. I just come in to find out where this damn mouse was. And there's my pile of kittens. They're all pig-piled. Can you guess where that mouse is? Oh, yeah. Nice and comfy. My Lanta. Jesus, I don't even know what to do with them. Ah.
No, is that a cat and a mouse cheating? Oh, anything is possible.
Daddy's home? Where is he?
Wow, that's just so lovely, man, and interesting.
Every time I cry, my dog judges me and runs off, so I'm gonna fake cry. I need you. Don't leave me. Hey.